Hello everyone, welcome to Redbus channel. In this video, we'll look at the weekly updates for employment-based and green card related updates for this week, for the week of June 8th to June 13th. So we'll cover a lot of topics this week. There's a lot of things that happened this week, right? So we'll look at the 100K fee, we'll look at the PERM processing times, we'll look at the EB-5, changes for India, $750 expedited pilot program that's coming up, and quite a few things, right? So if you aren't subscribed to our channel, do subscribe for getting regular updates. We try to do this every week so that you don't have to look at other things, and we cover all of these updates in this. Without further ado, let's get started. So the big news for this week was the 100K fee, H1B fee that was actually stuck down. There is a lot of coverage across all the news channels, Wall Street Journal, BBC, you name it, all of them covered this because it's such a big landmark decision. So the key thing that came out of that lawsuit was that the federal court struck down, saying that basically it's 20 states sued this against the government, and they said that the vacated means basically cancelled it, the 100K fee in its entirety. And the reason they said for that is because the argument was it's only the Congress has the way to basically tax somebody, because you can either put a penalty or a tax. So penalty because filing an H1B is not something illegal, so you can't put a penalty. And the second option is you can only put a tax. So it's a tax. So tax is not is not under the authority of the president, so it has to come from the Congress. So that was the main reason, and they said that you cannot have Congress gives the power, but president cannot do. So that was one reason. And also, as a president, you can only under 212F he can only restrict the entry, but cannot really do all these things, to power to tax and all that. So that's one of the big ones. And the other reasons they said was APA violations, Administrative Procedure Act violations. He doesn't have the legal authority for the amount. There's no public rulemaking and all of these things. I mean, quite a few things. We did a separate video on this. You can watch that. We did quite a bit detail on this. How the whole thing will work. So that's that, right? So that was vacated. And there is one important thing: is there is a contrary decision, basically an opposite decision that was given by Chamber of Commerce, regarding the same, where they didn't really it's basically exact opposite. You can see on the screen. I know what you're talking about. So as per Chamber of Commerce, it is not if it's not. So they say that it's valid to do these things, and as per them, it has the power, and and it was not looked at API ground. So you can see the side-based comparison of them that. And in the first case, the government won. The second case, California state and rest of the states won. In the first case where the government won, it's on appeal in the DC Circuit Court, and this is also right now in administrative appeal, and again waiting for that. Right, it's currently on a stay, administrative stay. We'll cover that in a second, but it's in the first district court. But the bottom line is, right, even though there are two conflicting decisions, sometimes if they're contradictory, or usually it can go to Supreme Court. But in this scenario, it could the one in California, because they completely vacated across the nation. So I think this probably would take precedence. Again, we'll have to see how these things will really pan out and what the guidance comes out. But just based on hunch how the whole thing is set up, the latest decision would take precedence on that. So we'll have to see how USCIS come up. So, but it could even end up in the Supreme Court as well. So that's the key thing, right? So what has happened after the decision came up earlier this week? The government actually filed a stay. Essentially, stay is nothing but asking to pause the government, or basically pause the ruling. So that's for two things. One is basically to stop the whole thing, saying that okay, we for the entire asking okay, you remove that. Second one is basically to reappeal all of that, right? So they basically the judge said, can't I? My ruling is final. Like I'm not going to change that. So he denied that full stay one. But he also gave something called administrative stay. What it means is it's basically temporary. The government has to basically file something by June 18th, and then it looks up by the other court, appeals court, basically looks at the whole thing. So we did a video on this separately as well. You can look at that video. I will will try to you can look at the whatever the thing on the top. You'll get that, right. So in short, the ruling was basically to remove that, and then there is an administrative stay. This is a developing story. We'll cover this as much as we can. So please stay tuned with our channel for getting updates. So the second big news is on the latest updates on the PERM processing times and preliminary wage determination processing times. So for a general typical PERM analyst review, as of May 31st, the updates are like, the processing times, April 2025, they're currently processing, or earlier, filed in April 2025 earlier, and latest month is April 2025. So the wait time is currently about 13 to 14 months. So if you are really going to go through green card process, you also need to add in the prevailing wage determination. So that right now is in November, so it's another 6 to 7 months that you add that, right? November of last year. So add total, you're looking at about close to 2 years, right? More or less, right? Pretty close to that. So it's a significant delay in this, right now. And the PERM audit review is around November, and the prevailing wage determination is in March. Sorry, my bad. I meant the prevailing wage is in March, so that's actually about 4 to 5 months, right? 3 to 4 months. So you add 3 to 4 months to that 14. That's actually 18 months, and other things maybe. So give or take 18 months is what is currently taking for the entire end-to-end process, to get the PERM approval, and then go through that. So still, I think this is pretty backlogged. So maybe we may see some changes here, but again, this is what you need to plan for this if you're really looking at green card as an option from your company, so that you plan all of these with your employer and do these things, right? So that's the whole idea. And that's about the prevailing wage determination. Another big news that came up this week is EB-5, employment-based category 5, which is basically the investment-based green card for India unreserved, is unavailable through September 30th. So there are two categories. One is reserved and unreserved. Unreserved takes about 68%. So essentially, this unreserved is basically done. What it means is that if you're filed, and the consulate can't issue visa, US also can't approve and give you a green card because they are not unavailable. You can still file. USC is still accepting based on the June visa bulletin, but you can't really get adjudication. That is the whole idea. But the set aside were the reserved categories, which is for rural, high unemployment and infrastructure things. They still remain current. There is no backlog as such. But again, the percentage of them is less. So that's why, you may not see the same numbers there. That's the idea. So again, the key point to highlight is also that earlier this year, right, like, we saw that the EB2 India cap numbers in late May, that, they also have also are unavailable. So it's similar pattern. I think there are a lot of people trying to file, and, we're running out of these things. So, we'll have to see how the whole things will pan out. So stay tuned on this update, right? So another big one this week is, basically DHS submitted a temporary final rule. Essentially, it's a final rule all in case, right? For a pilot program where you can pay $750 for a faster B1, B2 appointment. So most of the times what's happening is, you apply, the wait times are 12 months, 14 months in some cases, in countries like India, right? Pretty. So what they're trying to do is they want to really like give this as a pilot program. It's again starts in July 1st and until December 31st. And it's a temporary pilot. We don't know if they'll make it permanent or not, but the idea is you will get an appointment within 10 business days. So, and it's offered for a limited and the specific consular post will be intimated later. It's not really announced yet, and they say they'll cap it at 25,000 expedite requests. So this was published on June 9th, and they have not released the press release on what are those countries that we will. So we'll update that, as we get this final announcement from Department of State. So the main thing they're trying to say in that is that, because of the FIFA World Cup and the next year 2028 Olympics and all of these, the wait times are pretty high. So they want to like try this out to see if that works. And the way it works is, right, the $750 pilot program is that you submit a DS-160, you pay typical, the visa booking fee, and then you get a standard appointment first. And after you get that, if you have this pilot program available at the post, the consulate that you're interviewing with, you choose an expedited appointment within the 10 business days and you pay the $750 extra fee. So this way you're getting the whole thing. And important things to note is the visa approval does not change. It's still subject to the whole thing. It only speeds up the appointment wait time, but doesn't give you any priority for the adjudication. It is only in specific locations, and we don't have that list yet. And it's also limited. It may sell out faster. We don't know. So the key rationale is sometimes businesses have certain needs to travel or for an event, they can't go. So they're trying to experiment and see how this will. So we'll have to see. It's kind of like the premium processing of USCIS. So we'll have to see, how this whole thing works. Also, this does not remove the free expedite request concept that is already there for humanitarian or medical related things that are already out there. So we'll have to see how this whole thing will pan out, and we'll keep you posted, how this comes out, right? Other update is that, there was earlier this month, right, we had this a court vacated the USCIS, not adjudicating from these 40 countries. This was tied to the travel ban that was done, and they were implementing the same thing for about 39 travel ban countries and not adjudicating their judgment of status applications, asylum, quite a host of things, right? A judgment came in June 5th that was vacated as unlawful, and June 11th the final judgment came in. And June 12th, essentially, is when the court posted an alert saying that it disagrees with the judgment, but they will comply until they're going through appeal process. So the practical thing is that all these countries that are like who processing was not happening, they will be processed now, and they cannot use that as a negative factor. And again, they are still seeking appeal and all of that. So what it means for the employment-based immigration applicants is that you can see a slight bump in the processing times because all of these ones that are on hold from the past will now be in the same queues. So you may see delays in EADs and adjustment of status applications and all of that. There may be delays in that, right? Because some of these will come into the same queue. So that is what you can expect, right? So now what's ongoing currently, what's happening or unchanged this week is, we have the duration of status that is still, we're awaiting that update. We have the signature rule that is going to be effective July 10th. Weighted wage selection is in the final rule in place and is in place for that, so we're waiting for that as well. It's in comment period. Some other things are happening. So regarding the visa slots, there were no bulk visa slots that were released regarding that, right? So, many people, we are tracking our update portals, not many slots again. Basically, whatever you see are ghost slots, one or two, they appear here and there. And they've implemented this new wait time thing where there is a long, it shows that you are wait like 10 hours, or 8 hours, 6 hours, 5 hours, whatever crazy numbers that show up. So all of these is still, there is no bulk slot that released this week. So that's what's happening. So just to summarize the big things from this week, the 100K fee for the H1B was which was actually, based on the proclamation, it was struck down as an unlawful tax. But there is an administrative stay that is in place right now. That is going to, we'll see how that thing will pan out. As of now, it's still in effect until this June 18th. And then we will see what the USCIS will come out and what the appeals court, the stay will happen to that. And currently the processing times for PERM processing is about 13 to 14 months and prevailing wage determination about 3 months. So that's where it stands. And the EB-5 for India unreserved categories, is basically gone. They're over exhausted until September 30th. So until then, they will not get a green card. Even though you can file, you can't really get that. And there's a new $750 pilot program for B1, B2 applicants to get an appointment. So if you pay $750, you'll get an appointment within 10 business days. And this is going to be starting from July 1st and December 31st. So there are a lot of caveats. We don't have the list of countries yet. So we'll see what that whole thing is, right? And now US is also complying with the order that was vacating that basically to process adjustment of status, EAD, and all these applications for the banned countries. So that also is now in effect. So basically, they'll resume that processing. So we may see some delays in the processing times of others. So that's it, folks, for the update for this week. So do subscribe for getting regular updates. Thank you for watching.